Welcome to episode 9 of the Wolves Report, where today we talk about the thriller at the Villa, 3-5-2, Pedence, Traore, the limbs, the changes for Leeds, and of course, let's welcome Mark Knock, Chris Tyler, and I'm your host, Ryan Lester, and we're going to talk about the weekend that just happened. What a weekend. But let's make no mistake, that was a terrible game of football for the majority for Wolves. I mean, we're going to talk about the game a little bit more in depth because I think it's important that we highlight a lot of the problems that we saw. And obviously, we're going to talk about what happened at the end. But initially, how are you feeling after that knocker? You were at the game with me. How are you feeling now? Have you calmed down yet?
No, not even close. Not even close. It was 85. It was 80 minutes of an absolute disaster. You're planning to delete all your social media and just put your phone away for the next 3 weeks, and then something like that happens. I've been watching football like you boys for 30 plus years, and it still does stuff to me that I didn't know it could possibly do. It's just an absolutely unbelievable feeling after that, especially when the third goal rolls in. And no, I haven't. To answer your question, I've not calmed down yet. I'm still on cloud nine. To be fair, it was the best away day I think I've ever been to. And you know, I mean, when you put in context the games we've had in the past, like Reading in the playoffs was probably the benchmark up to that point, but just the sheer emotion, the way
Leeds in the cup.
Leeds in the cup, yeah.
I mean, I know we're going to go more into it because I want to hear off Tyler, but it's hard to put into words. But Tyler, I mean, we spoke to you after the game. We spoke to you yesterday. Your head's gone, hasn't it, son? You still can't believe what's happened.
I think, like I said, it's just gone, isn't it? Like you said, I must have watched a million football matches in my lifetime, and you're dead and buried. We didn't look like scoring all game, and with 10 minutes to go, you're dead and buried. There isn't anything else that can sort of bring you that, well, in my opinion, bring you that joy, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, I know we'll go into the performance and stuff, but yeah, just speechless really. I was just a lunatic. I've been a lunatic for like the last 24, 36 hours. The
35 years.
Left me. The kids don't know what's going on, but I don't care, to be honest.
I mean, we'll go into the celebrations later on, but I think it's important to highlight the worrying bits of the game. I mean, the first half was pretty much of a muchness. There was a brilliant save from Jose Sarr, and he's gone down and tipped it wide from Mings. Traore has gone on a worldy run that would have been potentially one of the goals of the season, and it's 0-0. And you're thinking, Villa haven't been that good. We haven't been that good. We sort of, after Traore's run, Wolves came into the game a little bit more, but there was no real flow. Wasn't sure where Dendoncker was playing. The ball wasn't sticking up front, and then we knew we had to improve, but unfortunately Villa improved, and that opening goal, I mean, the cross was put in. I'm not sure if it was Cash that put the cross in, but
McGinn for the cross.
McGinn put the cross in for the cross, and it was a great header from Ings. You can't really, but as you said on the day knocker, 3 centre-backs, surely we can't let one forward in there with 3 centre-backs and you get the header in?
It just didn't work. The whole thing didn't work in the first half. I think we had 2 players up front who were not very comfortable. It was very similar to when we played Newcastle and Maximin played up front. He was very easy to manage because he's not used to playing that position. You want someone like him, similar with Traore. You want him on the wing. You want him getting chalk on their boots. We had no one to hit. I mean, you don't realise how good Raul is until he's not in the team because there was no one to hold the ball up. And I think one of the biggest problems we had is because we switched to the 2 up front, we were allowing Villa a lot of space in the wide positions, and Matty Cash in particular was hurting us.
In the first half, a lot.
In the first half, yeah. And that was alluded to really with the goals as well, because as you say, McGinn's managed to pull Saiss out to a position he doesn't want to be in, turned him, crossed it in, and you know, Ings has done what Ings does against us every time he plays. But yeah, it was a really poor performance up to the point that we brought on Pedence and Silva, I think.
Yeah, Tyler, I mean, when the game went 2-0, I mean, like you said, we should probably do more better defending than leave Ings free in between 3 centre-backs. He's found space, but there's not a lot we can do about the second goal, is there? It's just a deflection. We've tried to close him down, and it's similar in terms of the deflection, that it's wrong-footed the keeper pretty much like for the winning goal. So, but when it's 2-0, Tyler, how did you feel?
Suicidal, in a word. The formation, you had 2 3-5-2s, but they were totally different. The Villa 3-5-2 works for Aston Villa. They've got 2 engines in McGinn and Louise. They've got a natural number 10 in Buendia, and they've got 2 proper centre forwards in Watkins and Ings. Our 3-5-2 was Dendoncker slightly wide right. Hwang and Adama just aren't strikers. For me, they're just not. They never will be. And you know, one of the guys on Twitter, Kev, pointed out, it seemed to me our tactic was give the ball to Adama, see if he'll score a worldie, and we might nick a result. And that nearly happened first half. But
yeah,
it was 2-3-5-2s, but ours was never one that was ever going to work. And I think before the game, you boys probably didn't see it, but on Twitter, everyone was just sort of so surprised at the lineup, and it just, like I said, it just didn't work. It was a shambles. I think the second goal, it's game over, isn't it? 99.9% of the time, it's game over. You're dead and buried. But the substitutions worked. We managed to create a little bit, and we got Villa on the back foot. And for 10 minutes, we were camped in, weren't we? To be fair, so the quality wasn't there on Saturday, but there was a bit of fight and a bit of passion, which is always good to see. But I never want to see 3-5-2 ever again. Thanks very much.
Well, before we move on to the fun part, what we're desperate to talk about, I mean, there was so many areas at the pitch that were wrong. I thought Matty Cash, he was troubling Marcel throughout the game. And again, I know we've won again. It's hard to be critical, but we haven't played well recently, but we're grinding out results. So for me, Marcel is still a worry. He didn't offer anything going forward. He was pretty much a left back in a back five, wasn't he, in the first half? He didn't really get forward or anything. He stayed there. There was a few balls down the line to Adama, and then it just didn't work. The three across midfield, but I get what you're saying, Tyler, but I do think that it would have been better if it was Raul and Hwang or Raul and Adama. It probably would have worked more then because there'd have been a focal point, but it was that bad a performance. Like you say, you feel like I never want to see 3-5-2 again. But the twist and the change in shape knocker from bringing those subs on, bang, the impact that Pedence had. Now, it looked like he was playing in number 10 position, sort of a medium, like just off the forward, off the right-hand side, but what an impact knocker. Straight as soon as he came on, beating men.
Yeah, I think that was the difference. I think we had the three midfield who were industrious, they'll work hard, but they're not going to... Neves can open up with a 50-yard ball over the top, but we had no one to really dominate through midfield and take the game by the scruff of the neck. And I thought Pedence did that when he came on. He's not instantly looking to just play the ball wide. He's looking to bring it back inside. He has a look, is there an option? And I also think Silva coming on gave us a little bit of energy up front that we'd been badly missing. I mean, we've all had the conversation about Silva, but I thought he was really good when he came on. I thought he started pulling the defenders out of position because you had someone who was staying up in that area, and Mings looked really uncomfortable trying to defend him. And just those little tweaks just gave us a bit of a foothold in the game. And obviously, the first goal hasn't really been spoken about enough, just how good that goal actually was in terms of pass and move and the ball from Neves. But I thought, Daniel Pedence for me has put himself in a position now where the manager has got to be considering getting him in the team. And I think the only way you do that is by having a look at the formation that you're going to use.
Well, the change in shape, I mean, we're not really sure if it looked to me like Sace had moved slightly over to the left back. I want 100%. It's hard to see. I was in the bottom tier, and it almost looked like an off-shape 4-2-3-1. I don't know what it looked like to you, Tyler. It kind of looked like that to me, but instantly, Wolves are playing to their strengths, which is attacking football. Now, Pedence for me isn't a left or a right player. He's a number 10. He's a pocket player. He drops his shoulder and goes, and he did that, and the link-up was good. So, I mean, we've mentioned it then, but let's talk about that first goal now. Dean Smith has said it was 3 set-piece goals. The Wolves' first goal was not a set-piece goal. I mean, you could say any goal's a set-piece goal, which is the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th phase of play after a set-piece.
Yeah.
But the ball came to the edge of the box. Neves has took a touch in front of him. He's bent it round into Pedence. He's put it first time. I mean, I thought that was, for me, that was goal of the game. It was a knife through butter ball, squared from Pedence, and Sace fired home. So, Tyler, what did you think of the goal?
Yeah, I think it's just Dino being a bit salty, isn't it? To be honest, it's never a set piece goal. I think he said all 3 were set pieces, and obviously, the third clearly was. The credit wasn't given to Neves for the pass.
The pass was tremendous.
It was an instinctive through ball, and Podence again. He does do it time and time again when he's in those positions. I mean, you could argue it's a fairly simple ball to put a goal in the box, but
first time,
time whipped it in,
confident.
And you're back in it, and you are right. It was a sort of a dysfunctional 4-2-3-1, and it was just good to get back in the game. I think we'd have all absolutely beat your hand off for a point at that stage. And I think I said to you boys, it's the first time we've been sort of camped in at half for 10-15 minutes. Under Nuno, we were 2-0 down. We'd never ever looked like coming back into a game of football. We'd lose 2-0. We wouldn't change anything, and it would be exactly the same. So the one positive I took from it is that, yes, bang, we got that goal, but then we went on and, we really tested Villa, and that for me was probably the most pleasing bit.
Just going on before we talk about the equaliser, Mr. C's put a comment up on YouTube. Bruno seems to have been given a lot of credit looking at social media, but we were terrible for 80 minutes. Yeah. And I mean, I can't emphasise that enough. I mean, most people would have watched it on streams or they were at the game, but Wolves, other than Adama in that first half, and I think Hwang had one shot when he hit it very soft towards the keeper when he probably should have done better. Wolves were toothless. And Villa weren't much better than us, but it was a very, very poor game. And I'm not going to say this is a tactical genius moment. I think Wolves have got out of jail. I think they've been lucky, but you have to give credit because he's made the changes. Silva was involved in one of the goals. Pedence was involved in one of the goals. So you have to give him credit for that. But as Mr. C says, you bang on. It was an alarmingly, worryingly bad performance, and I think he needs to learn lessons. Like Tyler said, I don't want to see 3-5-2 again, unless it's Raul. But even then, for me, the three centre midfielders, they're very similar in terms of their position. They don't really get that forward that much. So I think that left us a little bit flat, and it just kept inviting us on because, like you said, they had Buendia, and they kept coming and coming. So, thanks for your comment there, Mr. C. So back to the game, Knocker. It's 2-1. We've got a chance, and we're thinking. At any point, though, I don't know about you, but I still didn't believe at 2-1 because it was that bad. I thought we'd managed to sort of smuggle home a goal, and it was a great goal. But even then, and when Kilman hit the bar, I thought, I still don't believe. I just thought, it's not going to be our day. But obviously, then it went to Adama, who again, I don't think we'll talk about him in a little bit. Who's worked that crossover? I think it's then Donker has squared it and. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know it's gone. I think Makamba's tried to, Marvelous has tried to spin and clear it, and it's rolled down Cody's shin and off his foot. But who cares?
It's an incredible feeling, isn't it? But I think a bit of credit to Connor Cody as well because he won the initial corner. He decided to take himself on the slowest overlap in the history of football and try and get the ball across, and the defenders blocked it. And I think most of us in the stand, and if you look at match of the day, then Donker certainly wanted him to keep it in play, but he's played it sensible, let it go out. We've got the ball back in the box, recycled it, and it's an incredible moment. And I think the biggest thing for me was the reaction of the players when they scored, because you can talk about the millions that players are on, you can talk about all those different elements to it, and these Portuguese players coming over not caring apparently about the game, but the reaction to that equaliser when they ran towards us was just. It's a moment that'll live with you forever, isn't it? It was incredible. But, Cody, he got himself up there, got himself into a position to score the goal. If he's not there, the ball don't hit him, does it? So,
but it was almost that switch at 2-0 on 75 minutes, I think he brought Pedence on around that time. That switch then, though, like Fabio Silva did an overlap. Pedence tried to put him through. He tried a spectacular. Then Cody's doing an overlap. And we're playing attacking football. And as soon as we did that, Villa didn't know what to do. And it makes you think, well, why didn't we start like that? I almost feel like in the game, because it was a derby and we hadn't been playing great despite grinding out results, it almost felt like it was must not lose again in the approach to the game. And with those three centre midfielders that all sat, we just invited Villa on. And eventually, and it cost us in the second half. So hopefully, as we say, with that 3-5-2, I know we're talking about it, I never want to see that again in a long time. I'd rather another attacking player on there, but
we definitely set up not to lose, definitely, and I think that was mainly down to the fact that Jimenez had just come back from playing 3 games from Mexico, and I think if Jimenez is fit enough to start the game, I don't think we play that formation certainly, but that comes back to the transfer window, doesn't it? Not having the options to bring in the players you want to bring in, you end up having to switch the whole system around.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about this winning goal. Tyler, before we talk through the moment of the goal, I want to hear about what happened to you when we scored that goal.
Well, you two boys were there, and I was watching at home, and I don't really remember. Like, I've been with my wife now 18 years, and she said she's never ever seen me react like that before. I just
was that happy or?
Oh, the lot went, yeah. So at the game, the limbs looked incredible, but. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I'm a Wolves fan. I've lived in Solihull my whole life. We've been in Villa's shadow for most of it. And it was just nice to, I suppose, get one back on them if we're being honest. And it was a horrible goal to win. If that goes against you,
Yeah, you're pig sick, aren't you?
Human. It's a horrible goal. Adama does well, drives forward. I think they brought the young lad Ramsey on. Maybe he was a bit naive trying to win the ball there, but that worked in our favour. Terrible goal. Martinez is dropping his cap on it if it doesn't hit target and go in. But I think we said before, I think we're due a bit. We're due a bit of luck. We don't seem to score deflected goals or scrappy ones, or and it was just pandemonium, wasn't it? Sometimes it's in the stars, isn't it? It went in, and the rest is history. I've just about calmed down now, I think. So, I mean, you boys that were there, it must have just been I think we've seen a tweet of you this morning, Ryan, going around, haven't we, that you're about 8 foot tall. So.
I don't know what happened. I must have taken me mid jump, and I felt like I was floating. I mean, we're going to talk about limbs later on because I want a special talk about that. Another moments of sort of going away from this game, but yeah, I mean, I can't describe the feeling that I've ever had that in a local derby before. It's been great to beat West Brom. It's been great to beat any of the local teams, but in those circumstances, at 2-0 down, getting taunted, mind the gap, getting taunted 2-0 on your big day out, started allaying some passes, and they're absolutely giving us. Little knock next to me was purple, like he was like an angry firework about to go off. We were miserable. It was rubbish. It was mainly pathetic. In those circumstances, in a derby, away from home, 2-0 down with 10 minutes left to win the game, that is not going to be beaten in my time supporting Wolves. No. If it is, I don't know how I'll feel. But the fact it was that we were being taunted against our Premier League local rivals, it was one of the most glorious moments as a Wolves fan for me. I mean, Knocker, we were stood next to each other. We didn't see each other for that last goal. I don't know what happened. Like you said, it was one of the most incredible moments. And like you said, Tyler, it was a terrible goal. It's an absolute stinker. But going back to previously, we've got Mark Cole that comes on here sometimes, one of my Wolves mates in China. He said we've played he summed it up on Facebook. I think it was on your Facebook, Mark. We played so well the opening games and had no luck at all. We played some tremendous football. And you're like, how have we not won any games? Yet we've had an absolute stinker, and we've won that game. And that's football. No, nothing else. Like you said, Knocker, nothing else could make you feel like that. But and I've got to give Knocker credit. I know I'm not saying he's a tactical genius or he's the next Motsam, but he said to me, "This is going in, son." And I'm like, "Nah, mate, no, it's not." And when it went in,
mate, I've done all my superstitions. I've done everything I could do. So I'm taking an assist on that. But going back to the moment when the ball hit the net, I've never seen anything like that in my whole time watching football. I mean, I've had to take a pregnancy test this morning because I was mounted by at least 6 different people during those celebrations. It was absolutely incredible. It was, you've got blokes standing next to you, and there's women standing next to you, and there's kids that were there, and you ain't got a clue who those people are. But in that moment, you're a family, aren't you? It's absolutely incredible. There was bodies everywhere. There was people cartwheeling onto the pitch. There's legs in the air. It's just.
Did you see the trainer?
Yeah, that weren't mine, by the way. It was exquisite. I mean, I know Ryan took a right hand to the jaw during one of the celebrations as well. It was
deserved.
What a moment. And going back to what Tyler said, it's not about hating the Villa. It's about the fact that we've all been supporting Wolves long enough now to spend the majority of our time watching them in the Premier League, watching them be successful, watching them get to deep in competitions, watching them challenge for Champions League. When I was younger, they were challenging to win the league, and even though there wasn't a rivalry, you were envious. Of course, you were envious because we were scratching around in the Championship in the old First Division, trying to get there. So to have reeled them in and to be on a level playing field with them, and to do that, which is something. I mean, when we did get promoted, they come to Molineux, beat us 4-0. They've always been better than us. There's no two ways about it. So to have done that made it even more special because of how long that's been coming, how long we've been waiting to perform like that, and to just have that feeling of doing that to a team that have always been predominantly a lot better than we are. So it was magical. I'll take it to my grave. I mean, no question about it.
Mr. C within the comment says, "In that moment, you're a family." Lovely comment and so true. And you bang on, Knocker. That's like poetic words from you there, mate. It's so true. That moment of ecstasy, that moment of joy. And I want to talk about Limsbang a bit later on, but we're not going to beat that. I mean, Bristol City away for me. You're a goal down, you're a man down, and you think it's impossible. Bristol City was good, and it was chaos. but it wasn't 2-0 down in a local derby with 10 minutes left and winning. And I'm not sure we're going to beat that. I mean, could you, reversing this around, guys, imagine this has happened to us now. You two aren't doing this podcast today with me. Could you imagine having to face up to being 2-0 up in a derby, taunting, giving it them, which we would have the other way around. We would definitely have done it. Could you imagine how, when we've all got mates who are Villa fans, how they're feeling now about this? Because are they going to blame the manager? Are they going to blame the subs? Who are they blaming? But I mean,
we've all had it, Ron. I mean, we'll never forget the 5-1 at Molineux, for the Albion, and that and probably the Watford semi-final was the lowest.
Watford hurt.
I felt so low, and would I have felt as low on Saturday? 3 points to Premier League game, I don't know, but like Mark said, we're used to being on the end of these. I mean, Albion came and did us 5-1, and the manager sacked, and it was cold, it was wet, it was raining, it was just like the worst day ever. So it's just nice to have it go our way for once. I think is probably what it boils down to. And like you said, I think you said if we'd have gone there and won 5-0 and totally dominated the game, it would not have felt the same as it does when you steal a game of football at any level. But to do that away from home in the Premier League against your local rivals, like you said, it doesn't happen every day of the week, does it? So.
No, I mean, I'm comfortable in saying it was an absolute robbery because it was. I mean, that's not saying that Villa were good and they were better than Wolves. They were better in the second. They were certainly better in the second half when they were 2-0 up. But did they really do a lot and dominate the game? I don't think they dominated it. I think it looked like two very average teams. Well, Wolves were very poor, slugging it out. So I mean,
agreed.
Like we've all said on the WhatsApp group, it's hard to process. Put into words of what football can do to you in a game like this. The emotion. I mean, before the game, I was nervous. I saw the team and I wasn't feeling it at all. I was just thinking, it just looks. I can see the plan, tuck in, counter with the pace, but there was absolutely no link. And just going on to another comment, just drop that in there. Adam Sidaway, a mate of mine from Wolves, he said, "Don't mind if we play 3-5-2 with attacking wing backs if a 10 is instead." And I think that's bang on because for me, not just we didn't have a focal point, we didn't have a link, so there's no one that could hold the ball up, and there was no one that linking, so the ball just kept coming back again and again against that. I mean, that's a fair point. Neto, you could probably play in a 10, Pedence, you could play in a 10, but then you're probably playing. But like you said, you probably need two attacking wing backs as well. But it's just, I'm not sure when the high is going to go down. Maybe we'll face the reality when we go to next week.
On Saturday,
when we go to Leeds next week, Tyler, and our faces certainly look a little bit different. But we talked about the game, talked about 3-5-2. I want to give a special mention to Daniel Podence. I know we've talked about his involvement, but surely now with that impact in that short amount of time, he has to start next week. Okay.
I think so, yeah. I think so. I mean, he had a run out a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? And I think he was trying a little bit too hard, but you see the qualities there. He's an absolutely fantastic player. He's for me, he's so similar to Eden Hazard. He's got all of the low centre of gravity. He can beat a man. He can play a ball. He can see a ball. He can finish as well. I mean, we went to the Spurs game when he scored in the cup, and he's a really, really good footballer, and I think we've got to find a way to get him in the team now because we are better going forward than we are going back. There's no question about it. So we've got to start utilising the attacking talent that we've got in the team. And obviously we're going to have Trincao back, but for me, Pedence goes in over Trincao now, and I just think we've got to get those players into the team because we have got the quality there. We can outscore teams now. I don't think there's any question about it. We've just got to be brave, make that decision now to really go at teams. I mean, Leeds is a perfect test, isn't it? Because they've had a horrific start to the season. There's no reason we can't go there, real attacking intent, and try and blitz them.
Well, the thing is, Tyler, like you said then about Pedence coming into the side, assuming that he does play then and plays in wide right, I don't think we're giving him his best position to play. And I think when he's played wide before, he's had a couple of good games. For me, he's at his best when he's really close to Raul. I think he helped Raul or won a penalty via Arsenal, and David Luiz got sent off. And then he had the little scoop and blast in Arsenal away as well. So for me, when he's in that pocket, that's at his best. So I mean, does that mean if he's closer to Raul, then we're encouraging Semedo to get further up the pitch, and we sort of play because it doesn't have to be, formations don't have to be symmetrical, do they? So
the formation can be fluid, can't it? I mean, we've talked about it. I think every time we've had one, and for me, it's always going to be a 4-2-3-1 with him in the number 10. That's just for me how I see Wolves having their best footballers on the pitch. I agree with Knocko. Defensively, I think if we play a 4, a 3, a 5, I think we're very average. And as we talked about before, I'd much rather have that extra player in the pocket. And if that extra player is a Daniel Pedence, then it's a bit old school. But players like that, you should be looking to almost build your team around. And I'm probably hyping him a bit.
Match winners.
Much, but he's a natural. Yeah. He's a natural talent. He's a natural number 10. He's a natural footballer. He's not. I mean, I see the comparisons to Hazard. Obviously, he's stats and he's like a poor man's Hazard, isn't he? But Chelsea built a title-winning team around that. A bit like Grealish for Villa. Again, he's not at the same level, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say he is, but he's our version of Grealish where he can pick the ball up, he can beat 2 or 3 people, he can get you on the front foot. And I think there's only him and Adama that do that in our team. So for me...
Probably Neto when he's fit.
He always plays in a number 10 behind Raul. I just don't know if we're ever going to go back to that back 4 and get him in the team or not. But for me, yeah, you're right, Ryan. He's not at his best out wide. He doesn't necessarily like doing the defensive side. He likes to pick the ball up in that pocket, turn and go. And for me, that's what a number 10 should be doing.
I mean, we saw, particularly in the first half, not so much the second, but I thought Buendia was probably Villa's standout player in the first half. Probably him and Matt Cash. Buendia, look, he kept on finding those little pockets, turning and going. He's a short guy in stature, but tremendous feet and beating men. And like, we were like, well, why aren't we doing this? Because we're set up with 3 holders, and it was making him look good because they were all quite static, and he just kept picking the space out again and again. But the difference, obviously, it was the setup of the formation and the tactics change as well. But the difference, how different Wolves looked with Pedence on the pitch to before, it looked like 2 different teams. The belief, even at 2, I think Pedence came on about 75 minutes. The belief when Pedence got the ball, and we saw a few turns, and we thought, well, this is a little bit better. And like, I know a few people were going home then. I mean, and imagine if you've gone home after that, you're not going to forgive yourself.
But
you're not going to forgive yourself for that. But for him in that pocket, I think he's key. But what we need to do then is, if we are going to sort of manipulate the system to get him in the team, is then you're encouraging more space on the right-hand side for Semedo. Now, I don't think Semedo had his best game on Saturday. I think he kept on losing the ball too easily. I think he was all right to poor. I don't think he had a great game, to be honest.
He's been quiet recently. Yeah, he's been quiet. You know, Newcastle, he was quiet going forward, and he was very quiet on Saturday. Yeah, whether he's been told, I know, to be a bit more reserved, I don't know, but he doesn't seem to be sort of bombing up that right-hand side like he was earlier in the season.
Yeah, so Pedence in, then I think we're all agreeing on Pedence goes in for the next game. And so I tweeted about this as well, and we talked about this earlier on regarding a conversation I had with a gentleman sat behind me at the game that was not impressed with Adama Traore. But what I've got to say, though, although it wasn't his best game for Wolves, and it wasn't, he's the one player that looked like he was causing damage in the first half. I mean, that run could have potentially have been one of the goals of the season, and to do it at the whole team would have been some of the most tremendous poetry, but then we wouldn't have got what we got at the end. So I don't think Adama got enough credit for that game. He was involved in the second goal. I mean, he's picked up the loose ball, he's dropped his shoulder twice, he's chipped it into Dendoncker, who squared for the equaliser that's rolled down Cody's shin, but regardless, you've got to be there. And then he's won the free kick for the winning goal. So although Adama hasn't racked up any particularly good stats in that game, although he was probably trying to play a role in holding the ball up in the first half that didn't suit him, we've got to give him a lot of credit, haven't we? And I don't think we've given him enough credit for what an impact he did have on the game in terms of the goals.
I just think he gets a lot of pelters, and I don't think they're all particularly fair, if I'm being honest. I think, like you said, that run in the first half, all right, he didn't score it, but it lifted the whole team. And I think for the next 10, 15 minutes after that, we were the better side. We started getting on top and getting a foothold in the game. And, you know, he's involved in the first goal, he's involved in the second goal, he wins the free kick. He's our focal point, isn't he? And the people look too much into stats for me. They look at the no goals, no assists, but look what they did in the build-up to those goals. Look at the ball out. You know, the ball comes into him inside the penalty area from a corner kick. How many players there turn and try and play it back out, or first time try and lump it back into the box? He's took his time. He stood the defender up. He's given himself a yard and he's fed it to the back post. Then Donker crosses it, bang, it's 2-2. And, you know, you're in the 95th minute of a game that you'd absolutely rip their hand off for a point at that stage. All he's got to do is hit the corner. He can do that. That would have happened. Other teams would have done that.
I think at that point
he drove.
we'd have both taken a point, wouldn't we? We weren't.
Absolutely. Anyone in their right mind would have took a point when you've been in that kind of situation. But Adama wanted to win the game. He picks the ball up and he drives. He beats 3 men again, gets fouled on the edge of the area, and the rest is history. So I think people look too much into stats. He's a quality player. He gets you off your feet. He's top class. If he could finish, he wouldn't be at Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's no doubt about it. So I think you stick with him. You absolutely stick with him. For me, he's one of the first names on the team sheet every single week without question.
I mean, Tyler, he often gets criticised for his final ball, but he has created a lot of chances for people. But you've got to say, that little chipped cross for the second goal for Donkers a square, I mean, he's just like going backwards and forwards at pace at that time, and he's found a delicately chipped ball to the far post. I mean, sometimes what he can do doesn't get noticed enough.
Yeah, that was it was nice to see, because like you said, the amount of time when you knock
it's exquisite.
Always refers to it in the Asda car park, and we've seen him so many times in that position. He'll get it out of his feet and try and shoot, and he'll go out for a throw. It looked like something had almost triggered in him to say, "I'm in a good position here." And the dink to the back post, he doesn't do it enough. You know, I love him like you two, but I think he does have to produce more when it matters. But he did on Saturday, and again, I don't get the criticism. For me, I think I mentioned 4 or 5, that we've got 4 or 5, I think, really good players, and for me, he's one of them, and he's always in the team for me. It's the impact he has on the opposition.
Yeah.
They're terrified of him. They're absolutely terrified of him, whoever he plays.
He's a defender's worst nightmare.
The right back, man, they can't deal with him. They're not going to be able to deal with him. It pulls players from the opposition to double up on him, which should, in theory, leave spaces elsewhere. And like Knocker said, it's not all about the stats. We'd all like to see his stats be better. We'd all like more goals and more assists from him. That's what makes top players, isn't it, ultimately? But he more than proved his worth on Saturday, and he's always in my best Wolves 11, no problem.
I mean, we've said it many times. He's a unique footballer. He doesn't have the particular sort of fashionable style a footballer plays in, and because he's so quick and so big, I think what he can do gets underestimated. They just think he's a kick and run, and I think he's much more than that. I mean, you don't dribble at that speed with the ball that close to you if you can't play. You don't become you're not a Barcelona academy player if you can't play football. So I'd still be absolutely gutted if he left Wolves. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope he signs the contract. And what I did love on Saturday as well is, I don't know if you saw it, was quite funny. I think he jumped into the crowd for one of the goals, and his arm landed in some bloke's head, and the bloke's head's like this, and he's dived into the crowd. But the passion there for Adama, obviously he's against his ex-club. He didn't have a particularly great time at Villa, but for me, like you guys, he's one of the first names on the team sheet. He's a match winner. He's unique, and I think there's more to come from him. I think, like we saw at Villa, soon one of those is going to go in. He's made that himself. I think he's beat 4 or 5 players from his own half, and he's found himself one-on-one. He's left Mings for dead at the end, and the keeper's just took a step, and he's so unlucky. But I mean, I wanted to give him a shout out because, I mean, the guy behind me at the game, he's entitled to his opinion, and that's fine. But I just feel like people are just waiting for him to make a mistake to get on his back, because he seems to be like one of the boo boys. And I don't understand, because it's hard to have been entertained, find someone who entertains me so much when I'm playing Wolves. And people only look at the stats for goals and assists. But if you look at the stats on Saturday, he's made one from the free kick, and he's put the ball in the process of Dendoncker. So he's assisted the assister, really. So, yeah.
I think Chris nailed it on the head when he said that teams have to change to adjust to him, and they do, and it changes the whole dynamic of the game, because teams will arrange a formation around Adama Traore to try and stop him. And we saw a couple of years ago when Matt Targett went off after 25 minutes because apparently he had an injury, but he'd been absolutely roasted. He'd been roasted by Adama 5 or 6 times, and he comes off. And you look at that run, no one wants to put a foot in him. And then if you see the interview with Dean Smith, he says we should have fouled him earlier. And that's the only tactic teams have got to stop him. We need to foul him. And you're right, go and foul him, then we'll have free kicks in and around your box. We've seen what we can do with that.
Well, so absolutely.
He's phenomenal. And yeah, he's. I think we need to enjoy him, because there's a reason that Spurs, Liverpool and teams like that are looking at him. Yeah.
He's tremendous, and I hope he signs that deal. And I know we've talked on it before, but if that deal comes with, and he's gone 6 figures a week, but there's a big buyout clause, I'd accept that as well, because we've protected our asset. Then we get decent money that we can reinvest into the team. But more so, I want him at Wolves, because he's one player that could win a game totally by himself. You could be terrible, and he could win a game by himself, because he's what he's capable of. I know we talked about it a bit earlier on, but I want to go back and have a proper section and talk about the limbs on Saturday, because I know we've sort of digressed in and out of it, but I can honestly say, I mean, I talked about Bristol City. I've been to Albion away, Blues away. I've seen some really, really good celebrations. Leeds away in the cup with you, Knocker, in a quarter final of the cup away at Leeds.
Yeah.
Mid-90s. That was mental. But I think the fact from the zero to hero story that Wolves produced, as people have just gone, it was like some mad tribal rave, and people just went bananas. I've never seen anything like it, and we talked about it on the group chat, but it's hard to process trying to get my words out of how do you explain that. I mean, you were stood next to me, Tyler. You were watching it, Tyler. What did it look like?
First, you can't explain it. For me, there isn't anything that comes close to it. You just lose it, don't you? Basically, you just lose the plot, and you don't do that in day-to-day life. You don't do that anywhere else, or nothing else makes you go like that. And I don't know how my missus has put up with me for this long, but even she was watching.
We don't either.
On Sunday morning, and she was watching the Wolves fans, and she was like, Is that what happened? Is that what happened when you score a goal? Because if you're not into it, you just don't get it. You can't explain it to someone. I couldn't find a way to explain it to her what was going on. You just can't. You don't understand unless you're into it. And if Villa would have done it to us, they'd have been exactly the same. It's for every football team in the country, isn't it? If you go somewhere and you're awful and you get a last-minute winner, the lot's gone, isn't it? Like you said, the games you mentioned, Ryan, Bristol City was a last-minute winner when we'd been under the pump and we had 10 men. Leeds was a late winner and a late missed penalty. I think the later it happens, you've got the 3 points, and it just goes off, doesn't it? I'm a bit disappointed you haven't got any cuts and bruises, boys, to be honest. You're looking
well, that's not true. That's not true, is it, Knocker?
No, he's got a right shiner.
Well, I got
so red Knocker, you shiner, sir.
That's he's keeping the air still, mate. Don't worry about
that. I know it seems like a strange topic to talk about, but we need to emphasise that moment. I don't think I'm ever going to get that moment again watching Wolves. I mean, if we did that in a cup final to see us lift some silverware, that might come close. But I think in these circumstances, and I'm against our closest rivals in the league, against all the odds and a crap performance, like it's the second now. I mean, I've seen so many videos. I spent the morning, and my wife just looks at me like, "You're watching it again." Like I'm watching people's pictures, people's videos. I've watched Match of the Day. I'm watching Ruben Neves dive in the crowd. I'm watching Connor Cody. I'm watching Adama's arm go in someone's head. I'm remembering celebrating with you, Knocker. I've got a cut on the back of my ear. My shins are hurt. It was like one of my greatest moments supporting Wolves. And that might sound small time, but it's absolutely one of my greatest moments supporting Wolves. Would you say, Knocker?
Well, that's why we follow them, isn't it? That's why you keep coming back to football, even after you've been walloped 5-1 by the Albion, and when you've been relegated back to back. You keep coming back for moments like this, and put it into words. You can't put it into words. I mean, the closest we had is probably when we were 2-1 down to Birmingham, and it 2 late goals with Bully in the last minute to win the game.
Yeah, I was at that game.
It's that kind of feeling, and how do you describe it? It's such a spontaneous emotion. I mean, in the normal world, I don't go into Sainsbury's and jump on someone celebrating because I've found some cheap chicken or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just a ridiculous feeling, and we've spoke about it before. I mean, we've all got kids, and we've all got that. That's a special feeling when you've got a kid. It don't even come close to this, does it, if we're being totally honest? Because it is just a reactionary moment in your life that you will take it with you. And I'm the same as you. I mean, we come home on the Saturday night. I didn't get to sleep till about 3 a.m. because it was just reliving the whole game over in my head. And you end up on YouTube and Twitter, and you're just watching it back. And then I got up at 2 o'clock to go and watch Match of the Day. And it's just, the whole thing is just incredible. But if you don't follow this, if you don't have this connection, it doesn't matter what league you're in, doesn't matter if you're Premier League, Championship, League One or non-league, when you get them moments, they are the most special moments in your life. I mean, if you write a list of your top 10 things that have happened to you in your life, I guarantee football are 8 of them, because it's just absolutely incredible.
But if you're doing a worst 10, football would be like 8 of them as well, wouldn't it?
Oh, mate, there'd be all of them, no question about it. But it's just magical. It's life's so hard, isn't it? Life is so busy and life's so hectic, and we've got everything that's going on in the world at the minute. But this just takes everything away from you. And for those 15 minutes against Villa, when we turned into Real Madrid for 15 minutes. It was just absolutely unbelievable, and that will live with me. And I don't care if it is small time. It meant a lot because it was against them. That's the reality of it because of the reasons we've already discussed. So, yeah, just if you don't follow football, go and start following football because you are missing out on one of the most magnificent experiences that life can offer you. You really are.
But don't follow Wolves.
Don't follow Wolves, for God's sake, man.
More poetry from Little Knock.
Right, but who had more fun this weekend? Wolves fans or Man City fans going and beating Burnley 2-0. It's not about who you support. It's about what it offers you. We don't expect to win every week. I mean, did any of us really think we were going to go there and to Villa Park and win? I mean, one of us called the win, but I'm not going to name who it was. No, but I think we're, you don't expect it. So when it happens, and when it happens like that, more incredible scenes. I mean, my throat's still sore now, to be fair.
Well, as long as it's only your throat. But anyway, I want to go into a few. I want to go into a few questions that people have kindly taken the time to put in. Ted P on Twitter, he said, "How worried were you by the performance of the first 70 minutes at Villa Park on Saturday?" Quick question for you, Tyler.
The performance stinks. And I was probably a bit critical after Newcastle.
Be honest, son.
I thought we stunk the place out at home to Newcastle. Southampton away, I went there and it was turgid. We aren't playing good football. We're not playing well. And there's two schools of thought. If you're not playing well and you're winning games in the Premier League, then happy days, you'll take it. But the other side of the argument is at some point you're going to come unstuck if you don't keep playing well. And the performances haven't been anywhere near good enough, in my opinion. But
we keep grinding it out, though. So, I mean, like you, Tyler, I was worried. Me and Knocker, we said some things that we probably couldn't repeat now for the sake of the show having the next episode. But we were worried. We weren't worried. We were livid. Come 70 minutes, we couldn't work out why there were no subs.
No cohesion, no tactics. I couldn't see what the game plan was. Like I said earlier, Kevin mentioned about give it to the Dharma and see if he scores. That's Sunday morning tactics. We've got to be a lot better than that.
Another one another tweet in from Aimless Balls, who's B Townley. He reckons he's lucky trainers were the reason. And you know what, mate? Well, let's give it to you. He reckons he's lucky.
A pair of them, Knocker.
Look at them beauties. Look at them.
I could pull them off, to be fair.
He reckon he's lucky gold trainers. I think they're Nike JS's. I think I'm not really sure, but
you people have got too much money to spend out there. I'm rocking around in Diodoras here.
But yeah, I mean, we'll take any look we can get. Let's have a look here. Some more questions. Kevin, I think that's a mate of yours that you know, Tyler. Where do you expect Wolves to finish this year? 4 wins from the last 5 games, single loss against a very capable Brentford side, a fit squad with a favourable run of fixtures ahead. So let's go back to you, Tyler, with this one. Where are Wolves going to finish this year then? Pressure's on.
I think we are where we are now, really. I think if we finish 10th to 12th with the smallest squad that we've got, I think that'll be a good season. We're nowhere near top 4, top 6. I don't even think Europe top 7, top 8. With the limited squad we've got, 10th, 12th maybe. I think we've just got to play to our strengths. We've got the firepower. We've got the forward options. Can we find a way of getting those into the team? And we could maybe, have a better season. But for me, I'm a bit old school. Get to 40 points and see where you can go. But yeah, back on the line, I think where we are now is probably about right.
And Knocker, I'd probably take that. If you offer me at the start of the season, another year of transition under a manager with a new style, he has been backed, but not fully backed in the key areas that we need. So middle of the table would be classed as a good season for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree entirely here. I'm not expecting any more than that. I think we're gonna, with the African Cup of Nations coming up, we're gonna find that hard because we're gonna lose players. So yeah, I think if we finish where we are now, I'll be delighted with that.
Mr. C, who popped a question on YouTube as well. Bruno played a Dharma and Hwang up top. It didn't work. Hwang completely isolated. Larger clearly didn't rate Fabio, worrying that we have still no replacement for Raul, and we saw it yesterday. And Paul Nichols commented off that we've had no competition for Raul for 2 years, and that's a worry because without Raul, we looked a really poor side. But I think partially that's the system set up yesterday, not just Raul. But we have to give a little bit of credit to Fabio because he came on and he made a difference. I am worried that if Raul was out, we're going to be in trouble. And I'm not sure, and we've talked about it in the past, that Fabio's ready. But we've got to give Fabio a little bit of credit for the weekend, haven't we? Because he came on and he did make a difference, Knocker.
Yeah, I thought he was really good when he came on. I don't think he's a replacement for Raul, but I thought the energy he brought to the game really helped. I think he got us up the pitch a bit more.
He was busy, wasn't he?
He was busy, yeah. And when you've got someone like that, he had the youthful exuberance, didn't he? He was running around, he was getting stuck in, he was fearless, and you need that. But in terms of replacing Raul, we're a long way from that. I think we're struggling in that sense. And you could see, I mean, the comments that you've just mentioned are absolutely spot on. We've got no competition for Raul at all, and there's going to be games where Raul doesn't play well, when he doesn't score goals and when he's not affecting the game. And the worry is we've got nothing really to change it with. The only thing you could really look at, do you put Pedence in a false nine if you need to and maybe drop that formation? I don't know. It's a lot of tweaking, isn't it? But for me, if we're not going to trust Fabio, which I don't think he will trust him, other than the 20-minute cameos that we've been seeing, then you got to bring someone in the window, because if you don't, the season will be in risk of really tailing off, I think, when the players start getting a little bit more tired and they've put a bit more into it.
I mean, it looks like it was sort of a test run for Huang to play down the middle, and it was for Adama as well, but it did look like two wide forwards trying to play the middle, and neither of those got, I mean, although they're physically strong, when you're getting dominated by someone who's 5 or 6 inches taller than you, they're going to lean over you and win the headers. And although I thought they did okay, it's like we did miss that focal point. But playing devil's advocate, Wolves won the game without Raul. Now, it was a stinker, and it was a daylight robbery, but they won the game without Raul, so that does give you some little hope.
They didn't win it till Raul was on the pitch, though.
That's a fair point. Again, back at me. I can't argue with that. So yeah, I agree, and I'm sure you will as well, Tyler. I think we probably need to get another forward in the January window.
We said yesterday that I've got no issue with Fabio coming on 10, 15 minutes towards the end of games. It's hard, though, isn't it? You can't have two Raul Jimenez's on your books. Tottenham haven't got it. Chelsea haven't got it. They've got one top striker, and they haven't got anyone else really knocking at the door. So it's unlikely that Wolves are going to have one. I think Villa are quite lucky. They've got Watkins and Ings. They've got two decent centre forwards, but has that caused them a bit of a problem because Smith's now playing 3-5-2 to try and get them both in? So it's one of them, isn't it? I think we all saw how much we miss Raul, and you can't replace him. He's a genuine top-notch centre forward, isn't he? And they don't come along very often.
Well, the good news
in the window, and someone like that for me is still perfect to bring in that can play across the front line. He ain't going to cost you loads of money, and he's going to do a job for you. So for me, he'd be the person I'd be getting.
I mean, the good news is, I mean, he didn't play on Saturday because obviously he's travelled to the other side of the world and back and played 2.5 games of football. But what I would say is, in the last 2 games before that, Southampton and particularly against Newcastle, Raul was back. If we keep that guy fit, well, it probably will be even harder then to get, as much as I would like Origi, it'll be even harder to get Origi because unless you start him left or right or with him, he's not going to start ahead of him, is he? So I've got one final question before we sort of do the build-up to Leeds and look at some predictions. This is a really good question. Sean Mitchell tweeted in yesterday, nearly a quarter of the season the way through, who is your player of the year so far? Great question. Knocker, I think we'll start with you with that one, mate.
I'm going Max Kilman at this stage. I think he's been brilliant since he's come in. I think he's looked solid. I think he's looked intelligent. He looks like he's been playing there his whole life. And you know, you look at Tyrone Mings getting in the England squad. Would you take Tyrone Mings over Max Kilman at the minute? Because I wouldn't, if I'm being totally honest. For me, I think Max Kilman's been the most consistent player. We ain't going to get the recognition because he's a defender, isn't he? And you're always looking at attacking players. But for me, I think he's been our best player and the most consistent player, certainly.
Well, not only that, I mean, we mentioned this as well in the past, but he's playing in the back three, but he's the one of the back three that's playing out of position because surely he'd want to play naturally on his left side where he can be on his stronger foot feeding into Marcel or down the line for Traore. So to be playing that well and being noticed on your weaker side, granted, he's going to make some mistakes if he's playing on his right foot and you can't be expecting centre-backs to be both-footed. Well, professionals should be reasonable, but if you force him onto his right, he is going to make mistakes. But I think he's had a great season. And I mean, I've gone with someone different. So let's see what Tyler says for his player of the season so far.
A bit of a curveball here, but I've gone for Marcel.
Go on.
I'm joking.
What?
I thought I'd get more.
So you can't be drinking at 12:20 in the morning, mate.
No, same as Knocker. I think Neves started the season very well, but I think, all in all, it's Kilman, isn't it? Hasn't been below 7 out of 10. Looks assured, looks confident. Yeah, no one's been electric, but for me, he's probably been the best player. And just a word for the keeper as well, because I thought he made a blinding save on Saturday. And I think, again,
Yeah, definitely.
he's sort of settled into that role now. So I think I think he won Player of the Month, didn't he? For Wolves fans. So I think he's been very good. But yeah, Kilman just nips it for me.
Yeah, I think Kilman's been tremendous. It's like we've mentioned, we've sang his praises a lot on here, and I think the improvement he's had under this new manager, and I think he's improving with regular minutes, because although he's probably a late starter into the professional game, because he came to Wolves, I think was it Maidenhead he came from, and and he's like, was he 20 then or something? So he's maybe 19, but he's a late into like sort of professional football, because we all know what he did before, but he's coming on leaps and bounds, and he makes me think, and I know we talk about this a lot, that I almost would like to see him as the left centre back if Wolves ever go to a 2. It's hard to mention 4 at the back because we've just won the last few, what we've won now, like 4 out of the last 5. So it's hard to change it, even though the only way we're going to accommodate 3 of those attacking players behind Raul is if we go to a 4. But yeah, I know digressing a bit there. But my player of the season so far, I know you mentioned him, but I think Jose Sarr has been excellent. And I know he had the goal against United when he sort of he was unlucky to palm it, but I think the way he's been playing with some of his body blocks and his distribution, I think he's been excellent. I mean, he got the assist at Southampton with the early kick. That's something they've been working on. Raul's got to take a lot of credit for that, because but the ball over the top for him there was fantastic. And I think Jose Sarr was the first step in Wolves' transition to playing a new style of play. Yes, we haven't seen that probably now since the first 3 games of the season, but he's that player, that keeper that will allow us to play higher at the pitch. He will be the sweeper keeper. So for me, and not just for that, it's always hard to judge on value, but in terms of value for money, I think he's been excellent so far. In modern day football, the money that's paid for some of the keepers or any players, he has been, because he's not come from the most fashionable league, I think he's been an outstanding player. And it's I don't mean any disrespect to Rui, but I think he's at least equal to Rui in the shot-stopping department, and he's 100% better in terms of his distribution. But that's what we needed, because there's no way eventually we could play with a high line if Rui was playing. So thank you to everybody for the questions that have come in. We've got 8 minutes left now. Me and Tyler are making the trip to Ellen Road next week. Tyler, I'm not sure I can promise you the same as what happened last weekend.
I'll take it 2-0 Nielsen at the moment.
In I think we talked about this as well. If you'd have offered me 2 draws, or I'd have probably taken that. I'd have taken 1 win and 1 loss. But we've not played well. We've won again. We go to Leeds now. Wolves now have selection problems. I thought Marcel was really poor, but he doesn't look he's ever going to drop him. But you can't be getting skinned by Matt Cash and having stinkers in previous weeks and keep your place in the side. So I think he's under threat. There's absolutely no way we can play 3 centre midfielders. So Tyler, tell me your team for Leeds and why.
It's always going to be 4-2-3-1. We might never go 4-2-3-1.
So tell me the team you think then, because we're not going to go 4-2-3-1. Tell me the team that you think will play.
The team I think will probably be the same back 3, same wing backs. I think he'll bring Raul in and play probably. I think he'll still maybe go Adam and Wang. I don't know. It is a bit of a toss of the coin. He's already said he likes to pick those forwards and wide players with the opposition in mind, isn't it? So I suppose it's how he sees Leeds. I'd be going flat back 4, Podence in the 10. I'd have Adama, Raul. I thought Wang was very poor, but his Newcastle performance gets him another start for me. So that's what I would do. 4-2-3-1. Get them on the back foot, give them something to think about. They've had a slow start. They've got injuries. I think, like I said, it's going to be a good time to go there and hopefully get a result. And a draw will be massive. If you go to Bidden and Leeds and get 4 points, you're pretty happy, aren't you? So
yeah, be very happy with that. Now, it's interesting you should say that, because Leeds are the team, the fashionable, ridiculously high aggressive press. So surely for me, and going what you're saying on that, Tyler, you want to play your fastest players. So that would be for me, Hwang and Traore, making sure you get in behind those fullbacks that push on, and I think you try and pick them off there. But Knocker, what team do you think will start at Leeds?
Yeah, I'm same as Tyler. I think the only possible difference is as Pedence got in over Wang. I don't know it's 50-50 on that front. But I think Wang will probably get the nod. So I think it will be, as we all expect, really. I think Raoul will come back in. And with the pace we've got, I do think we can get behind Leeds. So it'll be 3 at the back, I'm pretty sure of that. I think then Donker will drop out, Moutinho and Neves in the middle, and then everything else pretty much picks itself, I think.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because there's going to be someone disappointed, but there always is. Now, I know Trincao has had some moments of magic, and he's completed 115 nutmegs so far this season. Yeah, that guy loves a nutmeg. He hasn't really committed that many, but so if he's fit and coming back in, I also think he'll consider bringing him back in because we've got to be honest, Wolves didn't play well. Heart, belief, and desire won that game at the end of there. The never giving up is what won the game on Saturday. Not a particular amount of skill, not a great performance. So, do you reward people on having the guts, or are you ruthless and say, lads, we didn't play well, so I'm going to make the changes? What do you think? Do you think he could? Is there any?
I think Bruno's right in the fact that you have to have one eye on the opposition, don't you? We're not Liverpool, we're not Man City. You can't just put a team out that you think is going to go and beat anybody. Is Leeds away a game for Trincao on the back of what we've all just said? You know, they're at you, they're in your face.
I don't think so.
Old school centre halves, they've got fullbacks that like a challenge. They're tough in midfield. So for me, I like him, as you know, but he doesn't play Saturday for me purely because I think Adama, Wang, Jimenez are going to be more suited to that type of game. There's an argument for Dendoncker in a game like that, you know, physical battle in midfield. That's probably where it's going to be won and lost. I think Trincao suited. You know, he started at home to Newcastle, and that's probably more him. Bit of time, bit of space on the pitch, and we didn't really do a lot. But I think that's what the manager's thinking. You've always got to have one eye on the opposition. I think because Leeds are quick and physical, I think we need to match them with our lineup.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think the worry for me is the way Leeds play. They will come at Marcel down that left-hand side. Down our left, they'll come at him, and I think he'll be badly exposed if we're not careful. So if you play Adama over on that side, you maybe pin them back a little bit defensively, which might give Marcel a little bit of protection, because if we go the way we did against the Villa with the 3 in midfield and we leave Marcel exposed, they'll get absolutely destroyed down that side. So we need to be really mindful. And I think the team will be picked based purely around Leeds, as opposed to what, as Chris says, just throwing players at it and thinking we're better than them man for man. I think we have to be really careful in this one.
Well, for me, I think the key, Raoul will be back. He has to start, and I think Traore absolutely has to start. As long as those two start, if it's Pedence or Huang, I'm okay with either of them. I'd want Pedence in a bit closer, but as you both said, in terms of the physical aspects and getting in behind them where the spaces will be, I think it'll be Huang, Raoul, and Adama. Then Donker set up a goal. No one knows where he was playing at Villa Park on Saturday. We still don't know. I don't know if he was.
Know himself.
I don't know, but they are a physical team. They have got a lot of legs. So do you start Moutinho and Neves? I don't know. It's an interesting one, but we've got like a minute, 2 minutes left to go, boys. So I want your first goal scorer and your correct score, please. Tyler, you go first.
I don't think there will be a first goal scorer, 0-0.
Oof, I'll take that though. Oh, going all that way. What a fun day.
After them last 15 minutes, he's dropped to 0-0 in.
Can't wait for a spend a Saturday with you, Tyler.
I'm being a bit positive there as well on that.
Top knocker.
I'm going to go 3-1 to Wolves, because I went 3-1 against the Villa. I think we'll be 3-1 to Wolves. Mate, I'll keep saying it until we lose. And I think Leeds will take the lead. Bamford with the opener. And then Wolves to go and win the game 3-1.
What an absolute stinker. But anyway, gentlemen, Mark Knott, Chris Tyler, thank you for joining me, Ryan Lester, on the Wolves Report. This has been episode 9 of our big day out. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, up the Wolves. Da, 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 da.